morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to our Swiss Turkish webinar series today. The Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Turkey, Swiss Business Hub Turkey, and the Switzerland Global Enterprise started this webinar series in times of COVID-19 in order to discuss various topics like global and Turkish economy, tax and customs measures, healthcare and pharma industries, investment opportunities in the new normal. Today, we will have our fifth webinar with the topic of Will COVID-19 change the way we work? Considering the huge impacts of the coronavirus on the economy and business globally, we would like to discuss the consequences of this pandemic concerning human resources and what are the perspectives of our experts who are managing hundreds and thousands of people. We have great speakers today from different industries, different companies, who will share with us their experiences, their approaches towards the challenges which we all have faced lately. Interesting is also to hear how they will adapt with the new normal. Before we are entering into the discussion, I am very pleased to introduce our panelists to you. Ms. Sezin Ninic. Sezin is the Human Resources Director for MENA and Turkey at Adecco Group. She has 20 years of diverse, comprehensive HR experience and leadership. She started her career at PwC HR consultancy. She worked at 5 different sectors in 4 countries. Previously, held the HR leadership roles at different sectors like retail, contact center, and HR consultancy. Sezin lived and worked in UK for 2 years, and she ran her own company. Before joining Adecco Group, she worked as executive coach for senior managers and C-level executives. She studied at Istanbul Technical University in Management Engineering, completed Advanced HR program from Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development UK. Sezin also is an ICF accredited coach and certified mentor. Mr. Levent Kömür is the General Manager, Diageo Turkey. He has held a variety of senior positions across the company, including Marketing Director and Sales and Distribution Director, Diageo Turkey. Levent was previously the General Manager of the Istanbul office of Integer Group. He started his professional life in Procter & Gamble and worked in various positions as Regional Brand Manager, responsible from Central and Eastern European countries, and as Marketing Director, he continued to work at Procter & Gamble, Egypt and the Near East, Turkey, South and East Africa. Levent was raised in Istanbul and graduated from the Industrial Engineering Department of Boğaziçi University. Ms. Aslı Keseroğlu. Aslı is a Human Resources and Administrational Affairs Manager at Angst and Pfister Turkey in Bursa. She is also responsible for HR and Administrational Affairs and Health and Safety functions as well. Angst and Pfister Advanced Technical Solutions is part of the Angst and Pfister Group, founded in 1920 in Switzerland, managing engineering for industrial components, 3 production plants, global logistics center, and sales offices worldwide. Aslı worked for 1.5 years for Leroy Merlin Turkey as HR manager and 3.5 years for Yazaki Wiring Technologies as HR department leader in Bursa. Aslı also spent 4 years at Carrefour headquarters in Istanbul as HR specialist. Aslı is graduated from Galatasaray University International Relations Department and also Galatasaray High School. She speaks English and French. She is married and has an 8-year-old daughter. We will also have our Q&A part for the last 10 minutes. And you are free to ask your questions to our panelists in the Q&A window at the bottom of the screen. I want to ask my first question to all of the 3 panelists. But before, I want to mention that my postgraduate degree is in Human Resources Management, and I worked for some time in this department. I know that the Human Resource Department doesn't sit around after hiring and getting the new employees. They are constantly working to improve the quality of the work life. There is a saying, if you want to build business, build the people. So in my opinion, human resources professionals are like the lifeblood of the company. I don't know if you agree with me with the saying. I want to ask my questions, but firstly, normally it's always ladies first, as you know, but due to the fact that we are now two ladies here, and taking into consideration, we have the new normal. This is like a very popular wording right now. Let's start with the gentleman then, Levent Bey. Do you agree what I have mentioned before about human resources? And what do you think, what is the importance of HR in the time of pandemic? Which challenges have you faced? And what do you think you will face?
Yeah, of course, I agree. In the end, if you look at all the departments across companies, it is the only department that has the name resources in it. And in the end, every crisis, to be a crisis, there should be a resource involved that is lacking, let's say. So whenever there is a crisis on anything, you have to look at the resources, and it is the human resources that comes first. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor really to be here, to be presenting to this esteemed guests. And also the topic is very close to my heart. As you said, I'm an engineer. I worked in sales, I worked in marketing, but I always wanted to, be a part of the human resources profession. And in the end, I managed to be a part of the human resources profession in my last job, let's say, being the general manager. And it's the most fun and the most difficult part. Now, coming back to your question and linking it with the crisis and the challenges that HR is facing. Let's define the crisis first. What crisis is this? Let's define the problem. First of all, it's a health crisis. So the HR should solve a health problem. Secondly, it is, as everybody says, it's a supply and demand crisis. However, from a business point of view, I also add the services part of it. It's a supply crisis, it's a demand crisis, and it's a services crisis. Why? Because this pandemic has limited the move of people, and the services sector is all about moving of people. So the whole, the services sector collapsed because there is no movement of people. So that's the second crisis that we need to define. And the third crisis is more of a psychological crisis, which is true for all of us. Why? Because we need to, as leaders of the company, let's say as the HR function, we need to show empathy and expect empathy. We need to not manage a crisis, but we need to manage the anxiety and concerns of the people. So this is the part that is really the most, let's say, demanding from the HR function. In other words, for the health crisis, how do you solve a health crisis? You create a hygienic environment as much as possible in the work spaces. You move to a remote, let's say, working environments. Why? Because people feel more comfortable and more healthy in their homes. That's you facilitate that. We had every day in our company 1,000 people continuing to work in the streets and producing in the factories. So how do you, let's say, confirm the health and hygiene of these people who are not at their homes and working for the whole company? And then you need to also manage the psychology of the people. Like, for example, what we did was that, in fact, the HR function did was, we did webinars. We were normally coming together as a company every 3 months. Since the start of the crisis, we are coming together every week. Every week we have a webinar. And the first webinar, we invited a doctor. He started from what is a bacteria, what is a virus, and then explained everything. And then we invited a psychologist. Then we invited an economist. Then we invited a caricaturist. How do you, to manage the anxiety of the people. Then we invited a strategist. We even celebrated the 23rd of April Children's Day on a webinar with the families of our employees. So it all boils down to not managing the crisis, but managing the anxiety and the concern of the people. And this is the end of my answer. I hope I was able to keep it short.
Thank you very much, Levent Bey. Thank you for your comments also. Very useful. Thank you. So I would like to ask the same question to Sezin Hanım and Aslı Hanım. We can start with you, maybe Sezin Hanım. What do you think? What is the importance of HR? Which challenges have you faced? Thank you.
Thank you for the invite, but also to start with, once more time, happy birthday. So what a nice day. With only a birthday we're having this.
Thank you very much. You are so kind. Thank you.
And the recent, actually the March, The Economist, one of the article stated like this: in a pandemic, chief people officer can make or break a company. In 2008, it was a financial crisis, but this crisis was about human in the center. Therefore, yes to your question, HR was very, very pivotal, critical, managing this crisis. And in terms of challenges, there has been so many. When I look at it from the leadership side, leaders as human beings, they had to also manage their own emotions, looking after their families, but at the same time ensuring the well-being of the employees all around. That was tough. So the first thing was about health and well-being of employees. Then managing the morale and motivation in these circumstances. Afterwards, with these given circumstances, ensuring the business continuity. And again, for leaders, managing 360. So looking after people and also making sure clients and candidates in our case are looked after. Also shareholders, stakeholders are also in that sense satisfied. So these were the tough things. And also that digital adaptation, because from March onwards, world faced the biggest work from home experiment in history. Altogether, from March, in our company as on Adecco Group, with the first case has been confirmed, we start working 100% from work from home. That was very good. We acted quickly. I will also elaborate some more actions from our side. But that was tough from the world, as I said, digital adaptation also required. Not everyone was digitally adapted. Has been very tough for leaders to adapt. So this has been the main challenges around it. And going forward, Adecco Group has a recent survey published, Resetting the World of Work. In that, with its 8,000 people from 8 different countries, they conducted. And according to what they see, how we work, where we work, how we lead, how we led, and at the same time, our investment in reskilling, upskilling, and leadership skills, many things will change in the future. So we already face a lot from March onwards, but there is more yet to come. But I will elaborate in the next steps as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sezin, also for your comments. And Aslı, I would like to ask the same question to you, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm very pleased to be a part of this webinar this morning. Thank you for inviting me. I fully agree with Levent Bey and Sezin Hanım regarding the importance of HR because this pandemic is still an unknown, uncontrollable, uncertain phenomenon, and we are trying to fight with it as HR, as a human being. So we took a lot of measures as of the beginning of February because our headquarters in Zurich, we had a lot of regular meetings with them, and we started to train our operators or blue and white collars people starting from the end of February, and they had concerns. Maybe I can start to the challenges we faced. Or people had many concerns and fears about the virus. But we have taken all necessary measures, defined the rules, and we informed them via emails from even the CEO of Angst Global, and we tried to support them in this way. But as the pandemic was not common and spoken as well in Turkey in February and even at the beginning of March, actions taken by HR, by us, such as extra hygiene, social distance, etc., were seen as exaggeration by some of our employees. We made an effort to convince our team regarding the necessity of these actions, to use masks, to send home our employees with chronic illnesses, home office working organization, daily temperature checks, separated working area and break areas, etc. It was an effort for us as HR to convince them. Also, we had to talk and convince some colleagues to come to work in the company because they were afraid and feeling unsafe. So besides our priorities have changed, our way of work also has changed. So as HR, we had to be more fast, to take fast decisions, fast actions, etc. Although we have never had such an experience before, we decided to start a home work office, and we saw we were ready and we succeed. The next day we could start. Finally, I can say that as HR, I felt that we were like soldiers because we did not have enough time to feel the emotions our colleagues felt. We didn't have this opportunity or time because we were like soldiers. I felt it with my team. This is the, how can I say, response, maybe the first response to the pandemic for us.
Yes, Aslı, I would like to thank you to all of you for sharing your opinions and views with us. As you all said, we are all facing a global health crisis, and such a crisis never happened before. People are suffering, they are sick, scared maybe, and we are in an unusual situation, and the normal rules, I think, no longer apply. So it's not easy to manage people, to manage employees, the company in such a crisis. And I think HR people, HR department worked maybe 24 hours when the lockdown started. As you said, Aslı, like soldiers, and it was not and is not easy, I assume. So let's stay with you, Aslı. As we have mentioned before, Pfister is a Swiss company, a 100 years old company operating their business from Bursa. You have both white collar and blue collar employees. As we know, since the start of the lockdown in March in Turkey, the white collar employees were the lucky ones, in brackets, the lucky ones, because they could stay at home. They tried to adapt working from there. In contrary, the blue-collar employees had to continue to work in shift system, I assume. So my question is, from an HR point of view, do you think this has been seen as unfair? And how did you manage this separation? Those who can stay safely at home and those who cannot. I am sure also there might be the feelings like jealousy, some hate, unfair, all these feelings came up. Yes, Aslı, what do you think?
Okay, so firstly, we announced our employees that our aim is to save our workforce during this period, and after that we started to work with short working hours, and we informed our people about it. So we always try to be transparent for the situation of the company, and we always try to be positive. as management. We applied and started short working hours system both for white collar and blue collar employees. Maybe you heard about it. In some companies, there were a separation between blue collars and white collars in terms of short working hours organization also, but we didn't make any separation. We organized a daily shift system for our white collar employees working from home. Each white collar employee came to the company and worked every other day. How can I say? One day I came, for example. Tomorrow I stayed home working from home, and the other day I came again. The blue colors were seeing the people at the factory, and they could see the continuity of the work. Also, we spent a lot of time in the production area with operators. We showed them that our company is safe, especially our management team. We were at the shop floor with them. Also, every day we had regular meetings with chief leaders and HR, health and safety responsible, and the production manager were participating to this meeting. We were trying to understand their concerns, their demands, if they are fearing, if they have some other, how can I say, uncertain subjects, etc. We were accessible, I can say, by them. Also, we increased the communication with the operators using WhatsApp, especially during the lockdowns. We made some groups. How can I say? It was such a buddy system in the military service. We were responsible for some groups, and we were exchanging the situations, the updates within via WhatsApp. How can I say other? And finally, we saw that the team was thanking to us because at the beginning they were a little bit opposite to these measures, extra measures they were saying, but at the end they said that we are safe here, and we don't know what we will leave when we leave the company. And it's continuing.
Yeah.
It will not finish.
That's true. So communication is also very important,
Yeah.
and it's one of the most important roles of HR. I think you managed this. Thank you, Aslı.
Thank you.
Levent, looking at you as the general manager of a large company with 9 factories and more than 2,000 employees, how do you see the situation and the separation?
I'll give a controversial answer. We don't call them blue collar or white collar. They are plant employees and office employees, operators and engineers. So
Yeah.
we don't label by the name of their color. For example, today I have a blue color on my shirt, but I work in the office. Secondly, in the rakı industry, as far as I know, we are the only rakı producer who is unionized, and I think it's very important to work in hand with the unions. We have some know-how. The unions have some know-how, so we, let's say, show solidarity with our unions to find the best solution, whatever it is, because as the unions, they cannot know 100%. We cannot know 100%. So we created a joint planning with them. In the end, it's not that difficult. You have to, what you're trying to do is you are trying to limit the exposure of the employee, whether in the sales force or in the office or in the plants, the exposure of the employee to the virus. And to do that, how can you do that? One, of course, let's say, decrease the working time, let's say. You decrease the frequency of coming to the office or work or the field or the plant, let's say. And you provide protective, let's say, protective equipment. And I think let's say, when you let's say 100% believe in the precautions that you are setting, and you can very clearly explain why certain things needs to be done, you can really limit let's say the exposure. So far, as you said, we have 9 plants, many employees. So far, we were able to let's say protect them from being impacted. It doesn't mean that it's going to continue like this. However, at least we are trying to make sure that we are following the latest knowledge to be very protective about the health of the employees.
Levent, thank you. When the employees also believe in you, their motivation is also, I think, very high. This is so important for productivity also.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah. I read an article of an HR expert. He was talking about 3 time stages. One is the recent past, which is like yesterday, last week, last month. This is the unexpected period where operations closed down. Thousands of people started to work remotely. Next stage is living in the near future, like tomorrow, next week, and the month after. The period how we maintain the well-being of people. Third stage is the transition into the new normal. So he says this is not now the new normal. This is like a transition stage from where we were to where we are going to. So we can talk about past, now, and future. If COVID-19 moves us towards working from home, the new normal, what do you think will be the challenges and how long will it take until the human being will adapt to this new working behavior? Furthermore, what kind of instruments have you used in order to motivate your employees? And as I know that now our participants are listening to us now online and they are managing professionals, what would you suggest them? Which methods they can use to motivate their employees? And I would like to ask an additional question. How did you motivate yourself? We can start with Sezin Hanım.
Okay, thank you. Yes, many depths to the question. As I said, it was interesting, I think, having because the scope, size, and spread was huge for this pandemic. And we had, as I said, work from home experiment altogether. Some companies were ready, some were not ready, but every change actually happens with the force as well. So to push people out of the comfort zone. So in that sense, it's speeding up the trends. That's what we see. And in terms of work from home, definitely brings its challenges. I mean, personally, I find that we call it, by the way, in Adecco Group as smart working. I've also come to that why actually we call it as smart working, because a place doesn't have to be home. Basically, this is a flexibility with the location is provided. And we see that actually flexibility is demanded more and more. It's not just about the location itself, it's about the time. So what we also see that actually maybe the usual contracts, which is outlining the amount of time that we're going to work, or 9 to 5 might become obsolete in the future. So it's going to be more, rather than the time measured productivity, it's going to be by the outcome. So many things are changing. About work from home, of course, this wasn't the regular work from home, because we had work from home program like once a week. And in Adecco Group as well, we have different alternatives like 25% of the time. So this was already there, so it wasn't new. But what was new altogether and all the time? So that was actually one of the big things. And that brought some challenges. The first thing was communication, because we are social beings, we need to interact. So that was missing. Some people were more isolated. We also tackled that, let's say, people living themselves, no families, single people, so they were more isolated. Some people like tea ladies, receptionists, they couldn't continue their job, so they felt like they're not utilized, so they actually have a different kind of challenges. So, and as I said, it was actually test for leaders and the companies, and I'm happy that Adecco Group Turkey as well went through this test very successfully, and actually we came out as increased engagement scores as well. I'll give a bit of insight what we've done. We kept the communication transparent because we didn't know all the answers. No one knew all the answers. Right now also is actually protecting the future as well, trying to make guess about that. But we were humble, transparent, and we kept the communication regular. It was like twice a month we had webinars as well, address the concerns. And from an HR and accredited coach perspective, I also always emphasize and encourage taking into consideration emotions, because that really have too many potpourri of different emotions, from anxiety, fears, worries, uncertainty itself was tough enough. As I said, it's social distancing in that sense. So one of the programs that I offered was deep listening, because a main part of coaching is about listening. We think listening is everywhere. Actually, listening is very limited. We don't really listen. We only listen either to answer or to relate to each other. But deep listening was important, and giving importance to emotions. With these deep listening sessions, we let them, creating a platform, speak about your emotions. And it's like a peer support group. They also hear other emotions and felt like it's okay to have a fear. So that made them actually feel a lot better. So that was one thing we've done nicely, listening sessions. The other thing is, there was a term at the beginning, mentioned a lot, like we are in the same boat, and later has a lot of criticism because we were not in the same boat, but we were under the same storm. So there were quite differences for people. Everyone had the pandemic, but the individual experiences were quite unique. So I always also defend for micro-segmentation, looking at everyone as a unique individual. So, for example, we call the tea ladies for the how are you calls, or the other people who are living on their own. So one of the initiatives we've done was how are you calls, just to look after them. And the other thing, not to miss a crisis, we also invest in upskilling, reskilling, learning from each other. We started peer learning programs where people can learn and actually practice the skills. I'm a strong believer of teaching is the best learning, so that was also the platform. And I believe we were also quick enough to respond, and being a global company, Swiss company, we had quite a lot of source in the organization, global crisis committees that helped us also to steer this storm, let's say. And of course, work from home also brings what kind of challenges? Time management or self-discipline. So not everyone is fully equipped, or managing with this isolation. Through bite-sized information, at the same time some training, we also provide this kind of content to upskill. We recommended more like reaching out, having the webinars with each other or calls rather than just using emails. So there were a lot to have done. Also, we had separate COVID surveys to see how we are doing, how they're responding, and that has been also very successful. And during this time, we didn't put anyone to unpaid leave or short-term work, so we also keep all the employees with the full benefits. So overall, I would say happily, this was an opportunity to build further trust, and we had an opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Yes, Sezin, thank you so much. I think Adecco Group managed very well this crisis, I think. Also at our chamber, we are working 2 people, and almost every morning we had like a coffee time on Zoom, about like 15 minutes, just talking about our daily lives. And then we started to discuss our businesses and so on. This really motivated us. And we also organized, like Adecco, Zoom meetings together with Swiss Business Hub Turkey, with our members, and also the Swiss companies in Turkey. So we had the opportunity to listen them, and the companies felt that we are caring them, we are in contact with them. So I think this is also very important in these times of crisis. Levent Bey, how did you keep contact with your employees, and how did you motivate them to stay in touch? I know you are the general manager, you are the boss, people follow you. Nevertheless, how did you keep the motivation, this high energy, and also the production efficiency? Have you made or will you do any investments? Which kind of?
Now, let me tell you something about this crisis. In fact, two things about this crisis. This crisis didn't trigger any new trends. All these things that we are talking about, flexible working, online sales, remote working, they had started. This crisis just accelerated these trends. The second thing that this crisis did is it served as a, how do you call, a big lens that made every action that the company is doing look bigger, in the sense that all these things that we need to do to motivate our employees during crisis, if we weren't doing them before, they will just react to it. Because like if as a company you were able to do continuous communication, if you were able to do these things, why didn't you do it before? Because all these things that needs to be done to, let's say, motivate people during the crisis should be done before, I mean, anytime, anyhow. So if as a company you started doing things for the first time as a reaction to the crisis, the employees are, let's say, seeing it, and they are realizing it. So it was a nice tool. This crisis was very instrumental to really show the authenticity and things that are done just to be seen, let's say. So we didn't do things very, very differently. I mean, if I can just list what we didn't do before was, first of all, like in every crisis, you would set up a crisis team. So it's not new, it's done. We did it. However, for the first time, because it was a special crisis, we created an email address, special email address, where, if they didn't want to talk anything, if they want to stay anonymous, whatever, the team, the employees could send a mail to this email address so that we can act. Although there were many tools to be, let's say, accessible for them, maybe they would choose. So we created a new tool to communicate, let's say. Secondly, as I said, we were coming together as a whole family every 3 months, because the topics that could be talked only accumulated in 3 months, let's say. But now, because the whole world is going through such a big change, we had something to talk every week. So all the leaders were very visible. So we continued with the transparent communication, frequent communication. We learned something very, very important. We weren't doing it before, but we realized with big positive surprise that it is working very well, which is, we were a company that was showing solidarity with its ecosystems since 150 years. I mean, when you look at the Tekel, all our factories are in, let's say, development regions. We don't have factories in highly developed industrial areas of Turkey. We have a factory in Elazığ. We have a factory in Tarsus. We have a factory in Denizli. We have a factory in Alaşehir. We have a factory in Bilecik. So that we were, like, showing solidarity with our ecosystem from the very beginning. However, we were not communicating these things to our employees. So, during a webinar, a very prominent strategist, Akan Abdullah, he was talking about his reading of the webinar to hold like 1,000 people. He said, "Why don't you tell what you're doing?" We said, no. I mean, these are things that we are doing it not to be not to tell them. We are just doing it because it's the right thing to do. Then we were more vocal. We told our employees that we, let's say, extended the payment of our customers of 100 million Turkish liras for 3 months, 4 months. We let's say, helped the bartenders who were out of work, and we didn't help it by just giving out money. We let them do their work. We bought cocktail recipes from them, so they received money not for something that didn't exist. They received money for doing their work. When the restaurants opened, we went and booked a table in every restaurant. So we paid money for doing their work. We supplied ethyl alcohol for disinfected production, etc. Now, all these things, we were going to do it anyhow. And in different crises, we did it before as well. But this time, we communicated this to our employees. And you cannot imagine the pride and the motivation that came with it. The seasonal agricultural workers is a huge problem in this country. Every year, thousands of people move from southeastern Turkey to western Turkey to work in the fields under very, very difficult conditions. So we collaborated with an organization, and we, let's say, supplied the hygienic needs of those agricultural workers in Manisa, for example. And that created a huge motivation. The pride that is coming with these things are very, very important. We were doing it before, we were not communicating. So our learning is, well, if you are doing, you better communicate. So it's a huge learning for us. What was the second part of your question? I forgot.
You answered my question. I asked you, how did you motivate your employees to stay in touch with them? And of course, the most important learning is, I think, again, the communication tool and increasing the motivation of the employees. This is the most important learning from this crisis, I think. Okay, thank you very much for sharing your experiences and suggestions with us. They are really very useful and valuable. Aslı, my next question is to you. It is really a difficult balance, I think, to work remotely from home. Suddenly, we moved to a world where the flexibility, trust, and self-disciplinary have gained a very, very crucial role in our lives. So, how do we keep a control on productivity and effectiveness, as well as focusing on the well-being of the individual? By the way, we have just 15 minutes left, and I have one more question to all of you. Maybe I'd be glad if you have a few sentences.
As I said before, we were working in a strong communication environment with blue colors and white colors, and our management team were present at the shop floor, and during this period, the employees were seeing that we have taken all necessary measures, and they were provided with all safety equipments to protect them. So with the regular meetings which we were organizing with our production manager, HR, and shift leaders, we were pushing, how can I say, we were pushing our targets together. We were talking regarding our targets. This is a chance, maybe we can say this was a chance for us, because before we didn't get enough chance to talk with them, maybe, but this time helped us to be more in contact with them. At the same time, we put some specific targets, production targets, to catch the productivity and efficiency, to motivate them also. Every day, our production management checked the quantities, comparing with the normal cycle time of parts with the operators, and it increased our blue colors awareness also regarding the production. I can summarize like that: communication and taking them into the action.
Okay, thank you, Aslı. The coronavirus crisis has hurried the arrival of the future of work. So we see there will be a lot of changes, and each of us have to adapt these changes somehow. Going back to the topic of working from home at the beginning, everyone was very happy to be at home, to stay at home being with their families. Like me, for example, I have also a 7 years old daughter and a small kitten at home, so I was very happy to be with them all day. But suddenly we realized that we are missing our workplaces, our offices, our colleagues, and maybe even our coffee machine. So I think you understood what I want to say. Fortunately or unfortunately, me personally, I see that we will have to adapt this new normal life. If you ask why, as you know, we are going into the new area of robotics, AI, blockchain, drones, and so on. This will have definitely a huge impact on our social and business lives. My question is to all of you: how do you see the transformation to reach to the new normal with the backpack full of new technology tools like AI, robotics, and so on? Levent, we can start with you.
It's it's a question that requires a very long answer.
Yes, but please in a few sentences.
Okay.
Thank you.
Look, let me tell you, to be able to answer that question, we have to first answer the question, what will work look like? The work, if we define what will work look like, we can define the workplace. So, however, and it can have different answers. However, let me try to tell you what is the way forward, let's say, because I really know my place and I don't want to make any predictions about the future, because I believe 90% of the predictions that are made about the future now will be wrong, and the remaining 10% will be right because even every day a broken clock will show the right time twice. So I don't think none of us have the ability to anticipate the future, but we can control how we react to the future. What will happen? What should happen in terms of managing the processes? We have to define this new workplace not as, let's say, remote working or working from home. We have to define it location-free workplace. So we have to, because the moment you call it home or remote, you make a comment about the workplace. But when you say location-free, that you will be able to use it forever. Now, again, another thing that will happen, that should happen, in my opinion, is there were lots of taboos in the minds of the employees and the employers about this system that was put upon us for the last 200 years, 250 years, office discipline, school discipline, etc., etc. But this crisis has taken away all these taboos. First of all, now the employers know that if they don't see their employees, they are working. So they don't have to be in the same building to be 100% sure, and they don't need to be 100% sure about what the employees are doing. And now the employees are also aware that they don't have to show themselves to their employees to prove that they are working. So all of a sudden, the real KPI of work has become the result, not the action. So I hope this will continue. And the third thing, which is very, very important, I hope, again, what we are doing, because as you said, this is a passage. We are now in between two normals. And we have adopted very good behaviors during this passage. Empathy, flexibility, solidarity, simplification. I hope when this passage is over, those four things also stay, and we remember how good it was to be simple, how good it was to show solidarity, how good it was to put ourselves in the shoes of other people, and how good it was to be flexible. I hope we don't go back to the same old hierarchical, way of working when this passage is over. That's my answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, there, Levent. You really summarized very well. Thank you for your opinions also. Sezin Hanım, what do you think? How will be this transformation? With a few sentences, please.
I mean, taking into consideration from actual technology point of view, technology started to help us with freeing up time from the transactional actual tasks to able to do more transformational for HR and other departments, and more actually have time for the human touch. And the other thing, how I see it, in one of the main agenda for HR professionals and leaders currently, diversity and inclusion. And in terms of recruitment and other phases, we also keep talking about biases and unconscious bias. And I also see that going forward, technology with AI and other forms will support us very much, currently doing, but as we keep saying, it's going to speed up. So not judging people based on the university they graduate, age, ethnicity, definitely. So through this perspective as well, we'll be utilizing, because technology is there to actually solve our problems and giving us more time to do the human-related touches as well. So from the technology point of view, this is how I see it. I'll just keep it short as you requested.
Thank you, Sezin. And Aslı, I also get your, I would like to get your views and opinions, please.
Okay. We are deeply in need of technology, and the cooperation of humans and machines will be important more than ever. And I think this pandemic process will be a milestone for HR to automate his repetitive administrational affairs with low added value, using chatbots, algorithmics, etc. And we will spend our time to contribute to the strategical works, I think. But we will revise our values and strategies, company culture, communication, organizational structure, our capability to be flexible, or talent management according to this new working models. And also the skills are also will be changed according to this new model. As HR, we will develop our current people or search new candidates with new skills such as technology ability, resilience, and flexibility. Also risk management, self-motivation, self-discipline, and taking initiative and fast decisions and actions. I can summarize like that, my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aslı. In order to keep our schedule, I would like to give our attention to the participants' questions right now. We have a few questions for the last few minutes. The first question is to Aslı. Do you see any difference in terms of work system between Angst and Pfister Turkey and Switzerland or other countries?
Angst Pfister Turkey is a production plant. We have more than 300 people, blue and white colors, working here. But in Switzerland, we have a headquarters. And when the pandemic started and they decided to go home working, they were fully went to home working. And as we are a production plant, we are continuing to work a part of our white collars working from home, and the other part of white and blue collars were continuing in the shop floor. So it depends on the sector the company works for.
Thank you, Aslı. The next question is, I will read. Does any of the panelists think that this COVID-19 did or will immensely and permanently change their business model via digitalization? And if so, is the world is going through a much faster transition towards Industry 4.0, 5.0? And if so, are we equipped to deal with such a great and fast change? Can we deal with the outcome? Maybe to Sezin?
Sure. I mean, what we see the speed of trends happening anyway, and that's nothing new. But before that as well, with the digital transformation, there's already a threat, because what kind of threats you doing a business and one company, one startup can come actually disrupt the industry that you are in. So for a while, not just about the COVID, but before as well, companies have to be more agile, following the trends, adapting accordingly. So we're going to see in our industry as well that has been going on changing and adapting. So we don't expect a so sudden change, but we are of course always keeping in the radar and trying to have an agile leadership, following the trends and looking at actually in terms of HR consultancy, what is changing, adapting, and how we can also change our business mix. We have also 10 brands in Adecco Group, how we can utilize our ecosystem better to provide more 360 service our clients. So this is already there, but it's going to speed up. And for technology usage, for diversity inclusion, and responding different needs from Z generation, the other age categories as well. So this is going to speed up. So I would say nothing completely new coming, but speeding up. And we have to be also in the game to survive and triumph as well.
Thank you, Sezin. And we are running out of time. So dear participants, if you have more questions, you can also send emails to us and we can reply to you soon. If I hear and listen to your comments, I am very happy that it confirms what my thoughts are concerning the importance of human resource. My personal opinion was and is COVID-19 has put HR into a very right place. I mean, not only the department, but also the workforce. If I remember well, most companies had 3 priorities at the beginning of COVID-19. Employees, clients, financial situation to survive. Here we also see that human being, in our sense, the employee, comes at the first place. The pandemic crisis has exposed more painfully than ever before the insufficiencies, the inequalities in the system of the past. Yet it has also refocused the minds of global leaders on the fundamental value of human life, human potential, and human livelihoods. This is the window of the opportunity to invest in our most precious asset. This is our human capital. Thank you very much for your grateful and fruitful discussion. I also would like to thank to our audience. Before I let you know the date of our next Swiss Turkish webinar, I would like to hand over our small gifts to our panelists. Levent, Sezin, and Aslı, we have donated to WWF on your name. And we will send the certificates to you all by email. Thank you so much for being with us today. And our next webinar will be about supply chain and local partners in Turkey after the summer break in September. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Have a good day. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.